Hey folks, it's Jeremy, the host of Blammo. Thanks so much for listening. This is a preview of one of our exclusive shows on Patreon. These are member-supported shows, meaning they only happen because of our incredible members and community. So check out a preview of the episode, and if you like it, consider joining us on Patreon at patreon.com/Blammo, where we have tons of exclusive Blammo episodes, shows, our amazing Slack group, and we're adding new things for members all the time. If not, no worries, we still love you, and we literally have hundreds of episodes of Blammo all free for you to dive into. Thanks so much.
Hey Derek, how you doing?
Hey Peter, how's it going?
It's going okay. It's been warm, uncharacteristically warm in the Bay Area, which I know it is summer.
Yeah, we always get late summers. You are getting ready for a trip to Ireland, is that right?
I am. I'm going there at the end of September for some more stuff with Inishmaan, and I hope it's going to be warm.
Are you modeling for them?
I am.
Okay.
I was doing photography for them, and they said, actually, would you mind modeling? Because our regular guy, the guy that I've always known, is retiring.
I found that so funny to see you on Inishmaan's website. First off, I've always thought their models were actual Irish sailors or something for some reason. So to me, when I saw you, I was like, does this mean that you're an Irish passing Italian? And how funny would that be if you were in my position, you're living in California, you go to this website, you see this rugged dude on a ship in Ireland wearing this Aran sweater, and you spend hundreds of dollars hoping to look like this Irish guy. And then one day you're walking around San Francisco and you see this electrician
in a bucket truck
and
and high vis.
And how would you know that? Imagine you're surprised that you spent hundreds of dollars to look like an Italian guy who works in California that you thought was Irish, like an Irish fisherman.
In their words, they said, because they tried a couple other models, and they said, they're just too pretty. You have the rugged look of someone that has seen life. And I'm like, I don't know if that's a backhanded compliment, but okay, sure. I guess it's just all the damage I've done to my body over the years.
That's funny.
So yeah, I'll be doing modeling for them. That if you do go to the website and you see two guys pretending like they're rowing, that's us. That's me and another guy who is actually Irish.
So there is someone Irish.
There is an Irish guy.
Okay, that's good to know.
There is a video of me and another guy who is an actual Irishman in a boat rowing. And they said, we'll teach you how to row. Believe me, it's easy. I said, okay, I've rowed a boat before. This is a very different kind of boat. It's got oars that are like sticks. It's not the regular kind of oar that you see where
there's a paddle,
small, and then there's a paddle at the end. This is just basically a big stick that doesn't necessarily balloon out like a paddle, if at all. So we get in the boat, and you have to have one arm above the other, and you have to constantly switch if you want to turn. Well, my knuckles became bloody after a short while because my hands just kept banging into each other. And they're like, oh, that's common. You'll get used to it. Don't worry. And so the other guy didn't do any better than me. He's a world-renowned surfer, actually. He surfs off of the west coast of Ireland, near the cliffs of Moher.
Does he live in Ireland?
He lives in Ireland.
Okay. That gives us some authenticity.
It does.
That makes me feel better about spending
another
money
guy.
there.
This is California, dude. This electrician.
This Italian electrician from California
doesn't know anything about this, but he looks Irish. Okay, sure, no problem. But yes, I'll be going there, faking the funk.
Okay.
Once again.
That reminds me of a recent controversy in Vogue where they had an AI model. I think it was either the inside cover ad or
no, it was inside.
Inside cover ad.
Inside,
so it's pretty high profile.
Yeah.
And there was a line on the very side, small print, that said something about how this model is generated by AI.
And was that H&M?
I can't remember the brand, but it was not super expensive. It wasn't like a Dior kind of brand.
No, right.
It was a kind of brand that you'd spend I mean, it's Vogue, so it's women's wear. So it's the kind of brand where you can expect to pay around $200 for a dress. So it's not like Zara, but it's, not like Dior either.
Okay.
And it caused a lot of controversy online. I do think this is kind of funny in that the fashion industry has always been built on fantasy.
Right.
And models have been touched up forever.
Yeah.
Manipulated, waist shrunk, all sorts of effects that we've accepted. Really, like we've accepted that this is not how the model actually looks. Even though people criticize that practice, this is just one step further. And then the criticisms to some degree feel odd because we've gone so far into the realm of fantasy and accepting fakery, essentially.
Yeah.
But this is like the ultimate fakery in that this human does not even exist.
Yeah. Where do you draw the line? I mean, people have been accepting of makeup and post-production procedures and manipulating of images for decades now. Before, it was all about airbrushing. Then now it was using the liquify tool in Photoshop to widen shoulders, bring in the waist, all that. And we accept that. We're like, well, okay, it's part of the process of selling, and I accept that. But at least I know that's a real person who is wearing the clothes. And there's a real art director behind the scenes that is saying, okay, let's try this, let's do this. But now it's completely different.
Right. I mean, as someone whose general worldview is not solely, but leans toward a materialist view of the world.
Can you explain what that is?
Means that like my central concerns are about like material things. It's not necessarily
ethics.
No, I mean, it's not about identity, and I don't want to slide too far into that. But when I think about politics, my main, although not exclusive concern is about material things. And to some degree, the thing that is most concerning then with this is the number of jobs that will be wiped out.
Right.
So, there's the photographer, there's obviously the model. And so I'm curious, as someone who has been on both sides of that equation, do you have views on how AI may affect those parts of the fashion industry?
I have guesses only at this point because it's such a new technology. And if people can find a way to save money, they will probably do it.
Sure.
And because they are, like many of us are, based on where can I automate the process and get things done quicker and more expediently and more cost effective. And I get that. But there is a certain point where you have to trust and you have to use human hands to do things. I'll give you a great example. In the construction business, no one wants to go back to hand tools. That would be going back quite some years. But I love using a power drill or a bandsaw. If I was trying to cut with a hacksaw, 2-inch conduit, that would take me forever. But I can just drill it and cut it within a matter of seconds. That's fine, but it's a human-powered machine. So will other jobs be born from using AI? Possibly. But the fact remains that certain jobs will be cut, and ideally, though I can't guarantee it, other jobs will sprout.
Yeah, that's always the argument for these technologies. I do think there's a difference between labor and productivity enhancing technology and then technology that just wipes out labor. So
Right.
to give an example, I interviewed some factory owners recently, a few months ago, for an article that I was hoping to work on for a publication. And it was about the possible implementation of artificial general intelligence robotics.
Mm-hmm.
So can you get a robot that will essentially be smart enough and nimble enough to work in a factory? And the clothing factories that I spoke to, or the owners of clothing factories, unsurprisingly were super happy about the possibility of implementing these robots.
Oh, yeah.
Because if they can spend $50,000 or something for a robot, they can eliminate multiple jobs.
Yeah.
Right. And I asked them, what are some of the jobs that can be eliminated? And so some of them are really basic operations on the assembly line. So, for example, at certain factories, you might have someone who marks the pockets. Their job is basically to mark the area where a pocket will go. And you can imagine an AGI robot can easily do that.
Yeah.
You can also imagine an AGI robot can pack garments into boxes and seal them ready for shipping.
Yep.
Another job gone. Can also imagine an AGI robot doing quality control. So they just scan to see if there's any imperfections. To some degree, that robot might even be better than a human at that
More
job,
accurate, perhaps?
Right? More accurate, perhaps. So there are many jobs in the clothing factory that will automatically be wiped out. And it's not even about productivity at that point. Those jobs have been wiped out. When I see this discussion happen online, I often get frustrated in that this discussion of AGI robotics and AI in fashion or in the economy in general often takes the view of the nation, the national economy, or the factory owner. So I'll give you an example. When I was talking to these factory owners, for example, or I had spoken to, I can't remember his name, but there was a writer who I had a debate about this on Twitter. And he had noted that...
A debate on Twitter?
Yeah.
How did that end up?
He noted that he feels that we should reshore a bunch of garment manufacturing and that it can be competitive. U.S. garment manufacturing can be competitive if we staff them with robots, essentially. And it falls into line with the conversations I had with clothing factory owners who said, we're really I remember I had a conversation with one of them who said, I'm really excited to, at this point, we don't really know what an AGI robot can do in a factory. This is all hypothetical because we don't yet have the technology, but
it's so new. Yeah. We don't know what the possibilities are.
It's so new, but the acceleration that we're seeing is like, obviously, I mean, I remember the Will Smith spaghetti video and then the videos that we have now. It's like
that's a throwback.
Couple of years, I really think this change is coming. So when I was talking to this factory owner, he said, I'm excited to implement this technology. And he said, I think it will make US factories more competitive against Chinese factories.
Until...
Well, I said, yeah. I said, well, what happens when the Chinese factories implement AGI robots?
Exactly. And until they have the same ones.
And he said, oh, I hadn't thought of that.
That's the natural progression.
I was like, that's like the diffusion of technology.
Is this some kind of like secret technology that the Chinese can never have?
They probably invented it.
Right.
Right? You think in China they're not developing robotics and AI? They have DeepSeek and they have all of these other similar technologies. This is not exclusive to your factory, right? NVIDIA is not only happy, but they want to sell to China. So this is diffuse technology. And so I feel that the conversation often and I wish I remember this writer's name, he's a noted writer, and he said, well, we're just going to bring back US manufacturing, especially for apparel, and they will be staffed by robots. And yeah, that's great news if you're a factory owner, right? If you're a factory owner, now you are a little bit more competitive to a Chinese factory because logistically, you're based in the US, so you can turn things around faster, you can do custom orders faster. You've eliminated, even if the Chinese factory has the same robots, you have some advantage in that you're a little bit closer and you've lowered a little bit the Chinese wage advantage in that they have cheaper labor.
Yeah.
But this only, in my view, only benefits the factory owner or people who are in a position to build a factory.
Right.
If you're the person who 10 years ago would have marked pockets, packed boxes, checked quality control, your wage went from whatever is the minimum wage to zero because you're gone.
Yeah.
And
your post has been eliminated.
And I also think about, I saw in that Vogue controversy where they used the model, you had made a very interesting comment online about how this could help some photographers or some models sometimes because you're looking for that special moment in the photo shoot where the person's is less self-aware and they're laughing or
they're introspective.
They're introspective. There's sometimes some moment where you're less aware of the camera.
Yeah.
And that somehow creates a better photo sometimes.
Yeah.
And AI could presumably aid in that process.
So I'm of two minds. I use, not often, but when the client asks for it, I'll use certain AI capabilities that Photoshop and Lightroom have. Like the biggest thing that I use is to get rid of distractions. So if there's power lines in the photo, I can just get rid of it. It's great. But and that's a fantasy because one of my biggest pet peeves of photographing here in California is that there's constantly power lines because all of our power is above ground.
Sure.
And that's the same with most of the United States. And then you go to Italy and it's like, oh, wow, where are all the power lines? Yeah, everything's underground. Great. Wonderful. But there is a point, and this is where your own personal ethics come into play. When do you draw the line? What is fantasy and what is reality? Well, if it's just a distraction, for example, let's say there is a window and the reflection on the window is a car in the street that is totally distracting. Well, now with AI, you can get rid of that. Or there's the power line situation. There's a random person in the picture. You're taking a photo of your family. There's a photo bomber in the back. Well, with one click or maybe 3, you can get rid of that photo bomber. All gone.
Right.
But when it comes to a complete from scratch creation of a photo, I have no problem with that, personally speaking. But I think it should definitely be said, not just like a little, like on that Vogue magazine, it was just a little and very, very tiny font blurb on the side of the photo that you would easily overlook. But I think it really needs to be said that it is very obviously, or not so obviously, a creation by AI.
Well, first off, I don't think that's going to happen.
Bummer.
Because
I want to be an idealist here.
My two thoughts of that is I do think there's a transitionary period where AI will help photographers in their work. You can erase power lines or whatever it is that you want to enhance.
Yeah.
But it's still you creating a photo and there is some labor involved.
Yes.
Again, in my materialist view, at least some workers, some people who do not own the company are getting paid.
Yeah.
The obvious fear and the one that everyone has been talking about is at what point does the company say, why are we even hiring Peter to take a photo? You just type in a prompt, male model wears suit, boom, done.
Yeah.
And, maybe they have some lowly paid intern, like you're paying that now. I don't know what your wage is for photography, but it's probably not minimum wage.
Not minimum wage.
It's not minimum wage. And now you can just get a minimum wage worker, snap a photo of the garment, and then tell AI, put this on someone, blah, 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 in this setting, blah, blah, and boom, it's done. And all of a sudden, you've eliminated the photographer, you've eliminated the model.
That's true. But I was having this discussion with Megan, who works at Vogue, offline, and there are some jobs that will be necessary. For example, you will have to have an art director. Art director is always necessary to have. So an art director for photography shoots is one who says, this is my idea. This is what I want to see. If you have someone who is minimum wage, they're probably not going to be trained to know what makes a good image.
Sure.
And so you have the art director that says, I want to have the sun here. I want to have the light here. I want to have this kind of mood. So you will probably never get rid of the art director.
Sure.
The photographer possibly, but in a best case scenario,
the model.
Best case scenario, again, I want to be idealistic. I don't know if this is going to happen. I'd like to hope it does. You will have the photographer who can then augment things. For example, you can maybe change or add a light source, and that could shine light on the model in a different way. If you have a model, sometimes it's the way that models pose themselves. You have your very typical model posture, and then you have little quirks that make things human. But AI is getting so good that who knows, in 10, 20 years' time, maybe they'll be able to even mimic those imperfections. I really don't know.
So on the issue of whether or not any of this stuff will be clearly labeled, something that I think is worth noting is that as new generations grow up with different technologies, they become incredibly accepting of that technology, right? So at the moment, we currently have few generations of people who did not grow up with this type of AI and who are aghast at, that one Vogue ad where it's just a model. As the people who are born today and will grow up in 20 years, they'll be very used to AI. And then their children will be like extremely used to AI. Like their idea is like, what's the big deal? In the same way that like, we just don't think it's a big deal for that, machine padded suit has replaced the tailor, right? Like we just don't think about it. So it becomes, the outrage is just not there anymore.
It becomes the new norm.
It becomes the new norm. There's that. The other thing that I think of is that what you noted, I do agree that there will always be the need for an art director. And this has been, I think, not only many people's argument for AI, but it's also been true of the last 200 years of industrial development, is that the profits tend to accrue to people who own the means of production. I mean, not to sound like a Marxist, but essentially the people that own the businesses, the factories, right? They own the means of production. Those are the people who get most of the profits. And then it's the people who have, over time, done more and more knowledge work. So in the mid-century, you could, as a man, you could graduate high school, go work at a factory doing, building cars or whatever it was, and then raise a family. And then over time, we moved into...
Want to hear the rest? Listen to the full episode and many more other exclusive episodes over on our Patreon. Visit patreon.com/Blamo to sign up and join the Blam fam. You also get access to our exclusive members-only Slack group where we chat about this and a ton of other things. So head over to patreon.com/Blamo and we'll see you there.